Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see everybody. As Alicia said, I'm Sally Alexander. I'm the MD of Amble Glow. If you are not familiar with us, this is just a few of our clients that we work with. We're full service education marketing agencies. So everything we do is education. Got very strong links with the independent school sector, so we understand your challenges very well. You'll also see that we do work with some reasonably big names on the commercial side, and those businesses are people that want to market into schools. But today I want to talk about resilience because it's tough going at the moment, isn't it, for everybody? I think we're all finding it fairly tough. So I'm hoping that I can give you some tips to take away to help with that resilience. So let's talk about the challenges we face. So economic uncertainty is causing families to reconsider private education. We know this one. We've seen the headlines, so it's not a great look at the moment. And when you look at the papers, I don't know about you, but I'm just trying to avoid reading them really. But this is kind of the outlook that we're looking at. You know, jobs are being cut, consumer spending is down, and obviously we all know about the VAT. We also have increased competition from the state and alternative schooling models, as Sarah's just mentioned. So this is just a little headline that 3,000 private educated pupils are going to interstate school between June and September. It's not a great outlook at the moment. And I think this one is, really important, which is, we've got to really deliver strong results with limited budgets. Now, this lady here is our marketing manager. She's being told by the head of maths that roundabout advertising is a good idea. And then you've got the deputy head academic that's saying he's got the roundabout magazine that's come through the door and the school down the road is in there and we should definitely go in there. So it is just kind of brain fry. But the good news is everybody in this room, I think we're all feeling the same, aren't we? So, we're all in this together. So one of the things that I want to talk about is the mindset shift. So, this is, and I've highlighted this because I think it's really important, but parents are deciding whether to stay in the sector at all. So, go back a few years, when we came together, we were all thinking, well, how do we outdo the school down the road, further down the road? What can we do and say about ourselves that makes us better? But really, for you today, it's this in yellow that's important. It's about trying to convince those parents to stay in the sector. When you think about it, it is an emotional investment, but it's also a financial investment. And it's not just a product, it is an investment. And I was just doing a little bit of research last night, and the Child Poverty Action Group, the cost of raising a child to 18 is 260,000 for a couple. And even worse, if you're a lone parent, it's 290,000. And it's mainly because of childcare. So that's just what it costs to raise a child. That's let's not factor in any sort of independent education. But let's have a quick look at understanding parental perspectives. So economic pressures, families are weighing education costs against financial obligations. It's making them more hesitant. Alternative options, grammar schools, high-performing state academies, hybrid learning options, these are all increasingly attractive alternatives. But then there's emotional decision-making. Many parents are feeling really guilty about reconsidering private education, and I think we need to acknowledge that in this messaging. And, when we're a school, it's an incredibly emotive subject. The fact of someone taking their child out of an independent education is really tough. I've got a family friend that's having to go through that very same thing financially. They just can't afford it anymore. So positioning your school as a long-term investment. So what do we do? So I'm always talking about the value, emphasising the value over the cost. So shift the narrative from price over to value. Help parents see the long-term benefit of their investment, and reinforce the idea that you are not just offering education, you are shaping future leaders, innovators, and well-rounded individuals. So you want to prove the return on the investment, so highlight where your alumni go, top universities, impressive careers, thriving personal paths, but also don't forget those pupils that actually for them, doing brilliantly is just maybe being in the middle. So, they're not the most academic, they're not the most sporty. Don't forget them, because there will be parents out there that have not got highly gifted individual children, but actually they still want a really good education. So when you're doing your case studies, just remember that actually not everybody is looking for, top academic brilliance going to Oxbridge. So just remember them in your storytelling. And demonstrate stability and support. So make sure, you're talking about, how you did over COVID, how, you kept that real stability going on. Make sure that, parents aren't just buying academic results, they are investing in an ecosystem of support. And provide real world assurances, small class sizes, individual attention, and a real long-term commitment. But as Sarah quite rightly said, and I'm going to come on to this very shortly, every school can pretty much say the same thing. So you're going to have to really dig deep to find your USP. I just wanted to show you an example of Hereford Cathedral School, I was looking at some research the other day and looking about who to put into my presentation. And in terms of that USP, these guys are really good. So they are very much focusing on how digital learning can help their students be ready for the real world. So they have got their digital strategy, which is really long document. They've got their HSC diploma and they've got their futures department. So that is a really good USP for them. Now, I'm not saying that everybody will have that type of USP, but it's just quite useful to see a school that really differentiated themselves and understood what they stand for. So let's talk about unique value proposition. And I thought of on demand about putting unique value proposition in here because every school, you largely do the same thing. So it's really hard to be able to come up with a USP. But I want to talk about why it's important. So parents have more choice than ever before. They really do. There's so much that they can do. Also, independent education, as we said, is an investment. But I think this is a really important point, is that actually, if you have a USP or you've got a UVP, it builds internal alignment. So all of your teams, whether it's marketing, admission, your wider staff, you're all talking from the same copybook. So I think, it really is important to understand kind of, what your UVP is. It also drives marketing efficiency, so you are talking all from the same book. Your messages are more targeted, they're more consistent, they're more persuasive, and you're reducing waste and improving conversions. And it also strengthens reputation. If the school is known for something specific, you are going to be remembered rather than a school that's got lots of generalist messaging. I just want to walk you through a case study. So this is lovely Banstead Prep, who are one of our clients, Adrienne there, who is the head of marketing, and John, who is the head at that school. And they had a really great idea of who they were internally. So they absolutely knew what they stood for, but they were sort of having problems with being able to articulate that externally to an external audience. So they asked us to kind of step in and kind of work with them. And the reason I wanted to show you this case study is because actually this is more about just having fancy messaging and having nice pictures and a nice story to tell. But actually when Adrienne did the results, she actually saw a huge uplift. And I'll show you the stats in a minute. So we put together a brand DNA for them. So we went through various stages. We spoke to staff, pupils, parents, ex-parents, alumni. We did a whole sort of case study and a whole piece of work on really understanding who they were. And there's some core pieces here. So you've got your brand heart, your brand messaging, your visual identity, and then you bring it all to life. And this has sort of created their brand DNA. So we created a really lovely kind of document that went more about how they talk about themselves, what they stand for. So this is much more than just kind of a brand guidelines piece. This is really who they are. And we came up with this, which was Free to Be Me. And you can see there's very little copy. We wanted it to look quite editorial, and we wanted it to look quite different. But we also wanted to talk about all the different facets that their children have. And the reason we came with Free to Be Me is because the pupils are absolutely ingrained in school decision making. So they have a student council. So all of the students can nominate someone to be part of the student council. The students even help decide the brand colours. So that's how ingrained student choice is. So they really are free to be them. And they had some really fantastic examples of how that actually works in practice. Words are very cheap. Anybody can come up with a strap line, but actually it's really about being able to evidence it. And they gave us some fantastic stories, and this is where we came up with the work. So let's look at the results. So, these are slightly old now, but you can see that actually, data-wise, the promotion work and the messaging behind it led to a direct increase in inquiries and visits. And actually, what was really lovely is Adrienne said to us when we'd done the work, she said, I had a goosebumps moment. She said, I really felt that you'd really captured us. And even nicer is she said that when she'd spoken to a prospective parent, they actually directly referenced their advertisements because they were looking at them and said, oh, you look really different. This is quite different to normal school advertising. But what's lovely for us is that actually a school has been able to show some tangible results about having a UVP and how it's actually made a difference. So if you're going to do this, how do you do it? Well, I've put together a sort of hierarchy of kind of what I think is important. So your parent and pupil surveys, you've got to do those. You've really got to understand, why current families choose you. Exit interviews, speak to your departing families and understand their decision-making process. If families don't decide to sign up with you, that's also something that's really important to find out. So if you can do any interviews to find out why they didn't choose you, that's really useful. Competitor analysis. Now, I'm sure that's really obvious when you do that, but we're in a time when things are shifting really quickly, and people are really putting their foot on the gas on this now. So if you're not looking at what your differences are and you're staying with your same messaging, others are going to be taking over and they're going to be putting their foot on the gas on this. If I give you one tip to go away with today, and Sarah was brilliant when she said about this, add a new page to your website talking about the value of independent education. Not necessarily the value of what you offer, because I'm sure you do that already, but the values of an independent education. And on the ISC website, there's loads of things in there that you can talk about. But interestingly, the Sutton Trust have said that anybody that goes through an independent education will earn, on average, 35% more in their mid-30s. So just a useful stat for you. But if we're going back to our components of the UBP, look at your admissions data, look at your alumni success stories. They are the biggest product of kind of a great, successful education. So make sure you're networking with them and understanding the value that they saw and they had from your school. Teacher and staff insights, they are the people that hold the storytelling. Sometimes when we're in our offices and we're doing our work and we're doing our prospectus and we're doing our digital campaigns, sometimes we're not quite there on the stories, a bit far away from it. So go and talk to your people, go and talk to your staff. They will have brilliant stories. And the components of a really good UVP are based on storytelling, which I'll come on to shortly. And mystery shopping as well. Should I say this? Go and visit your competitor open days. You get a third party to assess it. We do mystery shops for clients all the time. So put those things together. And if anybody wants any more advice on putting the UVP together and what that looks like, come and grab me afterwards, and I can talk you through some of the other stages. So creating messaging that moves people. So it's really important when we're all trying really hard to convince our families to stay with us, or new families to join us. We really need some really strong messaging. So show empathy. Acknowledge financial concerns. I think that is really important to do. We are all human after all. Be really clear, concrete benefits over vague promises, and also create a sense of urgency. Why act now? Interestingly, when you look at when parents decide about their child's education, it's usually 9 months to a year for primary schools, but anything from 1 to 2 years for secondary schools. They'll be researching 1 to 2 years in advance. So you need to be mapping out what you're going to be showing those parents who are at the early stages, and making sure that with your sales funnel or your admissions funnel, that you have content for every single part of that journey. So I just want to show you some real world examples. This is Framlingham College, and this was a really nice blog piece that I dug out from their head. And she is absolutely saying that, it is sort of sacrifice and compromise, but it really is worth it. And an independent school education is absolutely the right choice if you have the financial capacity to do so. I I also wanted to name check Full Neck School today because obviously they've had some really terrible news this week. But when I looked at their website, I wanted to say that their marketing, in terms of how they talked about the value of independent education and about how they helped their local community, was incredible. So I really would advise you to go and have a look at that. And it's really sad news, but their marketing was so on point. So I just wanted to name check them. And I would ask you to just go and have a look at their marketing because I think they did a really good job. Pupils Week, we've got Joe here who's going to be talking later. But if we are talking about keeping promises and being straight to the point, Giggleswick will have been very strong in their messaging about standing by their commitment. And I know Joe's going to talk about how she ran that campaign later. And also, making sure that you are creating a sense of urgency. So the Queen's School, limited spaces available. Really nice heart on the website from the High School of Glasgow. Every blog you go to, take the next step. What do I want to do? Do I want to visit them? Do I want to look at the prospectus? Do I want to apply? And that is so strong. For the parent, it's that don't make me think. So again, if you can tinker around with your website, I think that's a really good idea to steal. Facts tell, but stories sell. So I'm really hoping that my videos are going to work. So just picked out a few videos I think are really good. I'm probably just going to do one because of time, but I really like this one from King Edward's VI School in Southampton. I'm hoping it works. Ooh. Not looking too good, is it? Okay.
Working yesterday, so that's always the way.
I've written them down, so if it doesn't work, we'll skip on.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sorry. So if you want to go back and research these, so King Edward VI School is on Vimeo. Have a look at this one, it's really nice. And Hanford schools as well.
I think just carry on.
I'll just carry on.
Unless somebody can do it.
So King Edward's VI School, have a look at this one on Vimeo, and also Canford School Stories, they're really nice as well. So have a good look at them because I think in terms of being creative with your storytelling, they're really good. I think the other thing to say is that you don't have to do something that's really kind of Oscar worthy in terms of creative. So just have a go, see what you get. Okay, who can tell me who this lovely person is? Anybody know? Who does this represent? No? I mean, I'm using some artistic license here. This is our Versa. I'm sure we've all got them. We've all got who's looking particularly annoyed because you've just come to his office with what you want for your budget, and he wants you to justify it. So this section of the presentation is really about protecting your marketing budget. So what I'm going to ask you to do is you are going to think like Lord Sugar. And one of the things that I kind of want you to go away and think about is that actually your school is actually bigger than a lot of commercial institutions. So you need to fight for your budget, because if you've got a really small budget, but you're being asked to try and magic up another 50 families, but you've got £500 per family to do it with, it's not going to happen. So I want you to all go away and think like Lord Sugar. So if Lord Sugar was in that boardroom with your bursar or your director of finance, they would be botting it. So you're going to have to give me a bit of artistic license on this one because this is a commercial example. And I'm not by any means saying that your school budget's anything like this, but I just want to show you a commercial example. So we've got School X who have got 500 pupils and your fees are annually £20,000. So that brings you a 10 million turnover. Now, in commercial businesses, normally you would be using a percentage of your turnover to set your marketing budget. And you're probably going to be horrified and fall off your seats when you see this. So according to HubSpot, if you're a B2B business, you should be having 2 to 5% of your turnover for your marketing budget. Who's got, I shouldn't really ask, but if there's, anybody got something like that in their marketing budget? So probably not. If you are a B2C, 5 to 10%, 500 to 1 million. I don't think anybody's probably got that budget. No, but the reason for showing this is about thinking commercially. So when you're going into those meetings, you need to think about how commercially businesses are setting those. If you are ultimately a commercial business, it doesn't feel like it, but you are. So if you're protecting your marketing budget, your revenue per pupil. So on average, last year, fees were 18,063 in a day school. Enrolment capacity. How close are you to filling your classrooms? Budget needs to align with your enrolment goals. Again, if you've got lots of pupils to bring in and you've had people leave, students leave, you're going to need a bigger budget, and that's tough. I get it, but you really do need to fight for it. Competition. Highly competitive markets may require higher spending. If you're in Birmingham, if you're in Cambridge, they are some of those hotspots where there is so much competition, so you need to justify a higher budget. Economic factors. Inflation is real. All of the things that you are purchasing, including agency time, we are putting our costs up, unfortunately, because we have to run as well. So do make sure you are focusing on in inflation. So I think also one of the big things you need to advocate for is marketing is often seen as a cost, not an investment. But marketing is absolutely investment. If you think about your role in a commercial business, you would be in charge of multi-million-pound sales. So again, you may be working in a school, but actually, you are still in charge of a multi-million-pound sales business. So how would I apportion my marketing budget? Digital and website and SEO. So they would be the highest for me. They are the lead generators. And one of the things that I do really would encourage you to look at is when you're doing your digital advertising, don't just save it just before your open day. If you've got the budget or you can move budget from somewhere else, do a drip feed right throughout the year, because that's where you're going to start to get consistent results. If you're just saving it just before your open days, people are looking for schools all the time, not just when it comes around to open days. So digital advertising, paid social, PPC, retargeting, that would be the biggest part of my budget. Website and SEO, again, SEO long term is going to be your biggest friend. If you invest in anything, invest in your SEO. We invested in ours about 4 years ago, and I can't even tell you the difference it's made in our business and our lead generation. 10% for brand and strategy, 15% for content creation, 10% for print and events, 10% for CRM and data tools. Now, this is very rough. This will depend very much on your individual circumstances. So don't take this as gospel, but if you were to lean on something, I would be saying that your digital advertising, your website and SEO are the ones really that you really should be investing in. So admissions resilience, how do we keep resilience going? So I think it's really about thinking beyond year one goals. So short-term actions versus long-term brand building. So as I've mentioned, many schools think of focus on immediate intakes, but admission success is built over years, not just one cycle. And when you link that with how in advance families are looking for a school, certainly in the secondary sector, it's a long lead time. You need to be thinking about that. Schools that invest in consistent brand building, even in challenging times, emerge stronger. So really go away and think about, what are your key sales, talk to your staff, go to your inset days, do a presentation, try and get some workshops going. Parents are increasingly researching schools long before they apply, as we've talked, and you need to start engaging families earlier. Content, events, digital marketing, just to be able to remain top of mind. I've got one more point, but I've lost the mouse. Key resilience principles. So, stay visible even when numbers are stable. I think there is this tendency that, when things are good, take your foot off the gas, but actually, if anything, that's the time to keep it going. So I think that's a really important point to make. You're all marketers, you will get this. Keep data driven, track, test, and adapt. And network. You know, we are all in the same boat. What's lovely about being in a room like this today is that while there are some competitors here, actually we all understand it. We all have shared challenges. So I think it's really important to keep networking. And the last thing, I have got a couple more points I just wanted to talk about, just very much with when it comes to resilience. And this is more about personal resilience. Embrace agility over performance. Don't do perfection. You know, when we're trying to do so many things, marketers very much love perfection. I know I love perfection, but it isn't always possible. So, you know, give yourself a break. And I think it isn't about grit, it's about recovery. So, you know, book time for thinking, bring some time into your diary where you can think about things and research things and take stock and celebrate some small wins. You know, sometimes when news isn't so great, we forget about the small wins and the small things that we've done really well. And I think also, you know, my last point is about reconnecting why your work matters. You know, we are such an important part of our schools, and you know, we do such a brilliant job, or you guys do such a brilliant job. And I think sometimes you just need to take time out and give yourself a pat on the back, because you do all doing a really incredible job, and certainly at the moment under tough circumstances. So yeah, just reconnect with why your work in particular really matters to those pupils and families. So that's everything from me. Thank you.